Hi everyone. So yesterday, DmC Devil May Cry came out, and of course, Devil May Cry is my favorite game series of all time. I've loved the series ever since it first came out. Back with Devil May Cry 1, Devil May Cry 3 is probably my favorite game of all time. So I was super hyped when I heard that they were making another Devil May Cry. Granted, there were a couple of changes here and there, but I really, over the period of the game's production, I really embraced the game for what it was, and I actually got really excited to play it. Now, it came out yesterday, and I finished it uh, around about midnight, all the way through, all 20 missions. So, what I wanted to do was give my thoughts, my feelings, and my opinions on the game as a whole and how it feels as a standalone game, but also in comparison to the old Devil May Cry that we all know and love. Of course, there are going to be spoilers in this review, so please turn off if you're not interested in getting spoiled. I'm going to be telling everything that happened during my playthrough. So let's start with the story. Okay, the story I feel was kind of generic. And I say this straight off the bat because if you at all subscribe to pop culture these days, if you watch modern movies, if you read modern books, if you watch modern television, you will be able to predict the story of this game to a T. It's that generic. Now, does generic, it has a negative connotation to it. It's a story that's kind of been done 1,000 times before, a whole battle between demons and angels and one bad guy, wanting to control the world, and then the good guy, the underdog, rising up and taking control and saving all the people. It's that kind of story, but it's got a sort of supernatural element to it. And me being a Devil May Cry fan, someone who loves Dante, loves Virgil, loves the whole dynamic and relationship between the two characters, who honestly aren't that fleshed out to begin with, I was really hoping for Ninja Theory, because they are so praised on their storytelling abilities. Apparently, Enslaved was really good. I haven't played anything by Ninja Theory before. I was really looking forward to this game having a very strong story. It's having twists and turns to leave you guessing, to leave you not knowing what was going on, to having a whole host of characters and ideas behind it. This is what I was looking forward to in this game. And we didn't get that. I absolutely did not get that. Now, I'm really hard to please when it comes to stories. I'm very picky. Um, I like stories like a Game of Thrones, for example, where there are so many like different subplots where everything's really interesting. Where 1 minute you think one thing's happening, and it turns out it was all a plot twist, and it was all a secret, and this is what was really happening. And I love that kind of thing. I wanted it in this game. It didn't happen, which is really disappointing. When I was going through the game, I was kind of hoping that um, we'd have a super secret ending where perhaps Virgil would turn around and he'd be like, the person who was secretly behind, or who was secretly, working with Mundus or something like that, or he was behind the whole operation of this whole limbo thing. Didn't happen. So I was kind of disappointed in that because Virgil has always been the architect. He's well, as a character Virgil from the original games, because the original Virgil is a template for this Virgil, though they're not the same person. Um, I thought that this Virgil will be manipulative like the old one is. He's very sly, he's very clever, he's very aloof, and he wants power. Now, indeed, this Virgil does want power, but the way that the story plays it out, it's kind of disappointing. I mean, you have Virgil at the end coming in saying, "Okay, now that Mundus is gone, we can rule the world," and I was like, "Really? Okay, whatever." So that was kind of generic. And then you have, the whole story is basically based on you are Dante, half angel, half demon, um, and you are basically the underdog in society, and you're infamous. You're a known sexual deviant. You're a known murderer. Apparently, you're a paedophile too, as some part of the game says in this like news report. Um, and basically, you get what's the word? You get hired, sort of thing. You get recruited by this woman, this like psychic woman witch thing called Kat, and it turns out that your older brother Virgil, who you know nothing about, your twin brother Virgil, um, is the head of the super secret uh, like anonymous type organization who's fighting, fighting the good fight sort of thing. And then you end up like taking out all these people in order to get to Mundus, defeat his evil reign of terror and debt and domination over the world, and then letting the humans live free. So yeah, that's the basic plot, and it's very easy to. It doesn't really take a lot of imagination, in my opinion, and I really don't mean to insult anyone. It doesn't take a lot of imagination to come up with that kind of content. That for me would be a basic storyline. As a writer, what I would then do is I would then invest into my characters as people and really make them complex, give them motivations instead of making them like stock stereotypes, archetypes sort of thing. And what I would then do using these characters is I would make all these subplots and how these characters would react with one another. But this game didn't seem to have that, and that was really disappointing for me. I think the story was probably the biggest disappointment for me because it was the one thing that I was really looking forward to. Because for me, the story, even though there really isn't any story in any of the other Devil May Cry games, what made the story more interesting for me was the sort of character interactions. For example, Dante and Virgil in DmC 3. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed that there wasn't more sort of Virgil centric action in this story. But I guess, I don't know, I guess maybe it was obvious. It kind of felt a bit empty. Virgil just seemed like, a side character who then suddenly became a villain at the end. And of course, true to Capcom style, the ending of this game was kind of just stupid. So they save the world, Mundus dies, and then Virgil's like, oh yeah, well now we can rule. And Dante's like, well, I didn't defeat Mundus just so you could take his place. And he was really right, I think, in calling Virgil out on that, because Virgil basically is just Mundus 2.0 when you really think about it in this game. And him and Virgil fight, Virgil loses, and Virgil basically walks off somewhere. He says to Dante, I loved you, brother. And I thought that was kind of like sweet, but I was like, oh. Well, we'll have to wait for the obligatory DLC, won't we, to see what happens, which is called Virgil's Downfall. Because apparently, I've heard, the DLC for Virgil's Downfall is after the ending of the disc game. So, Capcom are always very notorious for releasing, extra content that really should have been on the disc, and for not really giving their games proper endings. So this is just another one of those. So yeah. But I will be playing the DLC because it is Devil May Cry. So yeah. Something else that I wanted to add as well about the story was this game really seems to suffer from loose ends. I mean, it's just, in the story, you basically find these like blue roses, whatever, and that is when you go and explore Dante's past. And in exploring Dante's past, you get abilities, like for example the Osiris weapon, Arbiter weapon, the Angel, like a glide jump thing. And in doing so, you have these like trial sort of like training areas after you do them, and at the end of each one, you end up like standing in front of this huge statue where you like destroy these chains and you unleash something. Now, it made it seem like this whole unleashing of this giant statue thing was really important, but it was literally nothing. And I'm like, okay, well, what was the point in that? Like, you literally could have given us the weapons and given us a level, like, a fight or two dedicated to using the weapons or something. You didn't have to, like, drag it out like that. And it just made me think that they didn't have enough story elements to pack it in, so they dragged out this whole, like, tutorial business, which was kind of disappointing, because if they'd actually written a proper story, then they wouldn't have had that problem. So, yeah. And then the whole backstory issue, there are so many plot holes in this story, it's ridiculous. Okay, so first of all, Dante and Virgil are half demon, or half devil, half angel, right? So what happened was their father Sparda ended up taking them two different like families, and Dante ended up in this orphanage. Now, in the very first trailer for DmC, like last year or 2011 or something like that, you have Dante as a teenager chained up, and there's this guy saying, "What is your name? What is your name?" Now, it seems from that trailer that there'd be loads of abuse going on, that he'd be in these mental asylums, whatever, whatever. It's never even mentioned in the game. It's never even mentioned, apart from the fact that he says, well, he ended up in an orphanage. And it doesn't even show what the hell went on in that orphanage. Apart from it was run by a demon or two. Now, okay, if Sparta really was if Sparta really was the powerful demon that he was, and put it this way, he has to be on par with Mundus. And if Mundus can sense people from across the city without even looking at them, surely Sparta would have sensed the fact that demons were running this orphanage, and as such, it would have been a threat to his children, and it would have made them remember about their past when he didn't want that for their own protection. And surely knowing that the demons were hired by Mundus, and that Mundus wanted to destroy all the half-angel, half-demon children called Nephilim, and Dante and Virgil being Nephilim, and the demons working for Mundus, it was just, it's whatever, it's dumb. And then it just seems like Sparta's part of this story is completely irrelevant. I mean, they called this game an origin story with a twist because it's a reboot. It's really not. Nothing is ever really explained, and that's irritating as hell. Because you know what? I really wish they'd just come out with a game about Sparta. Just about Sparta. So now I'm going to be talking about characters and characterization, because I feel that, considering I love shows, movies, TV, books, games, etc., that have very strong characters, and I think that character interaction is so important to having a really good story. I really wanted to talk about this bit. Okay, so in the past, Devil May Cry hasn't really had a super strong story. It does. I mean, I openly admit, even though it is my favorite series, Devil May Cry doesn't have a story. It isn't like Mass Effect 3 or, well, I've never played Mass Effect 3, but I assume it's like this, where you have, you know, one story, then you have the next part of the story in another game, then you have the next part of the story in another game, like Assassin's Creed, where it all builds up. Devil May Cry has never been like that. The individual stories that go on, but they're about the same people, different events that happen in their life, but there's no real like connection between any of them. So I've always, I guess, made the best out of the characters, considering it is so focusing on Dante and, you know, his host of the host of other characters in the games. So for me in Devil May Cry, characters are especially important because they really make what Devil May Cry is, and that's ludicrousness. Ludicrousness. I don't know if that's a word. Ridiculousness, over the top. But I like it. I think it's really fun. Now, obviously, in this game, it's very different to the original series. But one of the things I really found myself liking after I got over the initial, oh my god, fuck this game, and I really apologise for swearing, but that is exactly how a lot of people are, and I think it's kind of weird. After I was over that initial hatred, that blind hatred, I started accepting Dante for what he was. And this is a new guy. Now, with Dante, I don't think he's meant to really be likable. And I think I kind of like it because he's more relatable in that way. Because he did go through, like, a bad history and whatever, whatever. But I think there's something, he's a bad boy, but I think there's something, even though he's not exactly likable, I think there's something charming about him. Even though he does swear like a sailor, even though he is rude, even though he does act really ungentlemanly, there's something really, I think it's because he's really cheeky. And I think it's easier to like him if you're a girl than it is if you're a guy. And I think it's because he just has this sort of like bad boy charm to him. But that's my personal opinion. Obviously, that's completely subjective, and I wouldn't exactly write that in a review. But yeah, so the characterization at first, I love Dante in this game. I think he's cool. I think he's foul mouthed. I think he's something really refreshing. I think he's very modern, and he really does represent a lot of the anger and angst that people these days feel. And I think he's also a symbol, he's an embodiment of that anger and that angst against the system that a lot of people these days have. And he's the face of it. And obviously, you couple it, there's a lot of metaphors here, you couple it with his supernatural powers, and it's him literally fighting back against the bad guys, against the government, against the media. That's what he's literally doing. He's literally doing that in this game, and it's really cool. So I like the fact that he's multifaceted in that way. He has many roles to play. Now, one of the things that irritated me about Dante was when he met Kat. It was so weird. At first he was like, I don't need your help. And all of a sudden he suddenly seems to care about her out of the blue. And I don't know whether this is because he has never really connected with anybody. Obviously his memory was supposedly, but he lost his memory when he was 7 years old. His father wiped his memory when he was 7 years old, so they wouldn't remember anything about their past and being in danger. And it's just, it's like, why would he care about this girl so much? I really don't get it. When he was running to save her, save her and Virgil, he never once said, oh my god, I hope Virgil's okay. It was always, oh my god, I hope Kat's okay. Like, what about your brother? Okay, yeah, he's also a Nephilim, but I hope, surely your brother would be of importance to you as well. So that was kind of weird. And I just think towards the end of the game, he went from being this guy who really didn't give a flying crap to all of a sudden, just because he fought a few battles, to being a savior of the people. And then he literally said at the end of the game, the earth is under my protection now. Why do you care? You've never shown any inkling of like for humanity before. Just because Kat helped you doesn't mean all of a sudden you will turn around and say, well, I love the human race now because this one person did something for me. That just seems a bit illogical for me, and it wasn't very, particularly, his character wasn't that well written when it came to this sort of thing. For his default state of being an asshole, I really liked that because I thought it was fresh, it was really refreshing, it was new, it was audacious. Then all of a sudden, his character went, it turned in a way that was really generic, and I wasn't particularly invested in this sort of, new Dante who was, all of a sudden a savior of the people. I didn't really care for it, to be honest. So yeah, but he's my favorite character in this game. And then we have Kat. Kat, I think one word to summarize Kat is she's a plot device. She's definitely a plot device. I think she was meant to be a love interest for Dante as well, which is kind of really disappointing because it was like, does she have to be a love interest? Can't she just be a friend? Even though they don't kiss or anything like that, she touches his face at the end, and obviously he cares about her. So the implication there is that she's a love interest, whatever. And I just was kind of like disappointed with that, because just because there's a guy and a girl doesn't mean all of a sudden they're going to be interested in one another. So yeah. And it was very clear, in my opinion, that she was in love with Virgil anyway. So I was like, okay, like, what? Who do you like? Do you like Dante? Do you like Virgil? Both of them? None of them? Who? So yeah, I also kind of found it really irritating the fact that she was a damsel. She really was a damsel, and she had like all these like dark problems with, she had nightmares, and it was never really explained what these nightmares were. Obviously, it was hinted that it was about abuse from her father, from I think it was her stepfather, her father, something like that, who was a demon. But it just seemed like she seemed like a plot device, and they gave her some generic, archetypal troubled teenage girl story, and then they didn't really bother with her after that. I mean, all she literally does is send messages to Dante by speaking through the ether, sort of thing, because um she can speak, she can like see into limbo, because she's like a psychic, which the psychic thing was interesting, but although it was never really expanded, apart from the fact that she knows how to mix some, witch concoction, put it in a spray can, and basically create um, sort of portals to another world by doing graffiti. There was never really any packaging to her character, and that kind of irritated me because, honestly, give this girl a sword, make her a bit more, bolsterous, and she could have been cool. She really could have been cool, and it would have been cool to have her own DLC, her own content on the disc, maybe. It would have been really cool to play as Kat, and you know what? She could have been amongst these host of women in the original Devil May Cry series, such as Lucia, Lady, Trish, who all know how to fight. They all kick ass, so why not Kat? Surely, at least give us a magic power. She didn't really have any. That was kind of irritating. So yeah, um, and then we have Mundus, and I'm leaving Virgil to last for a reason. We have Mundus, who basically he's meant to be this like big bad guy, right? He's like basically this old demon king who basically, what happened was Sparta was this demon who was his right hand sort of like guy. Then you have Eva, who was his angel, and demons and angels were not allowed to like get together. It was just a war that was going on between demons and angels. It was never explained in the game, apart from the fact that there was a war. It was never explained what happened, why it happened. It was just taken as fact. It was kind of weird. Anyway, so Eva and Sparta got together. Then basically, I think Mundus took this as a betrayal. He sent all these demons out hunting after. Sorry, just turning my Xbox off. Hunting after Sparta and Eva, and then he ended up finding Eva. The implication is that he raped her, and then it showed him like eating her beating heart, which is kind of, that was cool, but it was whatever. And he's meant to be like this super bad guy who controls the world through debt. He's super rich. I mean, at the beginning of the game, you see him on the phone to the president, to Obama, and he's like, basically, if you don't do what I tell you to, then I'm gonna cause financial collapse. So he's meant to be like, obviously he's meant to be intelligent, influential, blah blah blah. But the thing is, he's a little bitch. He's a bitch. He never comes out of his tower. He never does anything until it's the absolute final moment, and then he explodes like an idiot, and he seems to have no self control. I honestly, as a character, I do not know how this guy managed to rule the underworld, because he just seems like a shit leader. Like he's impulsive, he's aggressive, he has no real strategy apart from let everyone destroy everything until it comes to a point where you have to fight back. I was just whatever. He's all bark and no bite. That's what he is. So yeah, and then he ended up dying. One of the things that really irritated me about him was basically Dante kills his child, right? This like ugly, deformed demon looking thing. And then Dante ends up going into Mundus' office. And Mundus turns around and he's like, "Oh, why did you kill my child?" Like, okay, I understand it's meant to be deep and hard hitting dialogue and it's meant to be poignant. Okay, it kind of did have that effect. But at the same time, it was like, okay, Mundus, why are you saying that? It shows that you're completely stupid and selfish. And I know that he's a devil, so he's not meant to be compassionate, but it just smacked of brainlessness, because it was like, okay, you are a raper, you're a rapist, a pillager, a murderer, a tyrant. You destroy and kill and maim and ruin, and you well, it's implied that he raped Eva and ate her heart. So why are you asking Eva's son why he killed your child, especially after you basically told the news corporations to demonize Dante. Huh? I was like, are you really so dumb? Like, just like, do you really? Are you sitting there feeling sorry for yourself with the fact that Dante hasn't spared your child? I was like, Mundus, get over it. Oh my gosh, get over it, Mundus. So yeah, there wasn't really any. He wasn't really that particularly, he wasn't really a particularly good villain. They were just using the old template from the old games for him, I feel, and it just, yeah, generic, really generic. And then we have his mistress Lilith. She was a whole bag of plastic surgery. She was funny. Um, she was just an asshole, but there's not really much you could say about her, really. So yeah, plot device again, plot device like Cat, which is really kind of upsetting because it seems that all the women in this game are just there for plot devices and it shouldn't be that way. And then of course we have La Pièce de la Résistance, and that is Virgil. Now, let me tell you something. In the original games, Virgil probably is my favourite character. I love Virgil in DmC 3 so much. I think he's an asshole. I really do. I think he's cold and cruel and calculating and Machiavellian, and he gets what he wants. And he's very strong and powerful, and he'll do it with his own hands. And he doesn't trust anyone. He doesn't put his life in anyone's hands. Now, while I understand that this game is not the original series, and these characters, even though they have the same names, even though they might be, part devils, whatever, they're not the same characters. They're not the same people. But obviously they use the original Dante and Virgil as templates. Now, considering that Virgil, before the game came out, was discovered to be the leader of this organisation, you'd think that he'd be super clever, super, proactive, blah, blah, blah. Now, Virgil isn't really in this game that much. He's more of a side character. I'd say Cat has more of a role than he does. But the thing is, with Virgil, he seems to be this guy who is the sort of driving force to telling Dante, okay, we're going to defeat the demon guys, and we're all going to save the humans, and blah, blah, blah. So Virgil at first seems to be a bit of a good guy. But if you've played any of the original DmC games, you will know that you'll think, okay, something smells funny here. You'll know that something's not quite right with Virgil being a good guy. So I think I was kind of I kind of knew it was going to happen. Well, I did know it was going to happen because I'm not stupid. And, like I said, if you do subscribe to pop culture these days, then you will be able to see it a mile off. But he basically took advantage of the whole defeat of Mundus and said, okay, now we can rule. And then Dante was like, whoa, what are you talking about? And I was like, honestly, I was like, I was kind of surprised. I was like, really, Virgil? Now you show yourself to be a bad guy? And the one, I would say he's Mundus version 2.0. And I say this because his ideals are exactly like Mundus's. Mundus said to Dante, okay, humans are destructive and I've kept the peace. Virgil says, humans are destructive and I'm going to keep the peace. Mundus was a leader of the humans. Virgil wants to be a leader of the humans. Mundus kind of let everyone do the work for him. Virgil let everyone do the work for him. I think it's with Virgil in his game, he lets Dante do all the running around while he sits there at a computer hacking into stuff. That's what Virgil in this game is a computer hacker. He's a computer hacker. Is it relevant to today? Yeah, of course it is. Obviously, with the whole order deal, they used the sort of anonymous 4chan thing, and with anonymous being computer hackers, and they made Virgil a computer hacker, which is cool. But you should also make him a bit more friggin' proactive than just sitting there at a computer looking really pretty and saying to Dante, oh yeah, well, defeat these enemies, and I'll just sit here and let you do all the work for me. Okay, thanks, bye. And that really irritated me. I think Virgil is very snaky in this game, which I think is what he was supposed to be about. But if they were trying to make him epic, did it really work? Epic for me, when I think of Virgil, is the original Virgil, and I don't mean to be one of these people who's like, oh my god, nothing will ever be as good as the original. Because I do think in this game, it did excel. It was actually better than Devil May Cry 3 in some parts, which is my favourite game of all time. But when you think of epic, you think of Virgil. And original Virgil he does things himself. He don't let anyone get in his way. He don't sit back and let people do the work for him. He doesn't do it. He does it himself. This Virgil, basically gets Dante to do everything for him, and then loses like a little bitch at the end of the fight. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because I've got an irrational attachment to Virgil as a character that I put with him, with this rendition of him, more than I really should. So yeah. So then you have, your other characters such as the Succubus, Bob Barbus, who else? What other boss battles were there? Anyway, just some other stuff. So, oh yeah, okay, of course, Eva and Sparta. So apparently Eva was this angel, and nothing was really explained about her whatsoever. She was kind, apparently, in the couple of lines we heard her speak. She wanted Dante to be free and everything, but yeah. For a game that's meant to be an origin game sort of thing, she didn't really go about doing much. There wasn't really much origin. It was just kind of the stuff that you'd expect, that we already knew, and they just literally like kind of chucked a few lines from her mouth, and yeah, that was a cameo apparently. Same for Sparta. So I don't know. Oh, something else worth mentioning is the fact that Virgil said, okay, our father is imprisoned for all eternity, and he's in hell basically. Dante, for about 5 seconds, looked really bothered by that. And then throughout the rest of the game, he didn't even mention it ever again. He didn't even mention their mother ever again. They didn't even sit down and talk about the whole family deal ever again. And I was like, really? Okay, whatever. Just, okay. So, characterization in this game, as you can see, it's good in some parts, kind of shit in others. Honestly, the highlight of this game for me is Dante in the first 10 missions, because I think he's really cool. I do. I love his cracking one-lines. Oh my gosh, there's this bit where you basically have to punch this elevator down with this, like, like, fist weapon thing. Anyway, and then some of his lines are classic, and in this particular instance, he goes, it's just the way he said it, he goes, smashing! I was like, he's so funny, and he's so corny, and he just says stuff like, him and Virgil are having some, like, banter or something like that, and then Dante says to him, oh, I'm good looking, Virgil's like, I'm smarter, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, Dante just goes, oh, yeah, but I have a bigger dick. And I was like, oh my god. See, these two could really be friends. But yeah, obviously, it didn't turn out the way it turned out. So, yeah, that's it for characterization. Very long. So now about gameplay. This game really does feel like Devil May Cry when it comes to gameplay. It's hack and slash, obviously, which is good. Now, one of the gripes that I personally had with the gameplay, even though I do like it, I love the new style, the new grading system. I love how, you get completion points, how you're ranked on your time and on your stylish points. I love that. Because it's very Devil May Cry in essence. With the whole, collectibles, that's cool as well. But also, I really like how, I don't know what you call it, the stylish system, where it goes, like, from D to A, from D to C to B to A, and then you have S, then SS, then triple S. And I love, oh my god, it's so cool. I love how, like, when you get an S, the guy goes like, oh, what is it, savage. He's like, savage. And then, like, you get a double S and he's like, sinister, and then sensational or something. Like, obviously, I can't do the voice, but it's really cool. But I really like how they kind of had these two weapons, sort of demon and angel side, and they made it seamless in the logic. Because obviously, Dante being demon and angel, he'd have access to both, so that made sense. But also, the control scheme in this game, while the combat is very tight, it's very fluid, it's very reactive, it's very nice. The control scheme is a bit dumb. Like, you have to hold down, like, at least one button to even attack when you want to attack with your demon weapons and your angel weapons. And it's not a big thing, but it's kind of awkward sometimes. It doesn't really feel natural. And yeah, and then I think if you played the old Devil May Cry, then you're used to doing this sort of, the million stab move where Dante basically rushes forward with his sword and stabs again and again and again. I really wish that it had the same control system, because if it did, this game would have been even better in my eyes, because that control system for the original Devil May Cry games is really good. It's very tight, it feels natural, it feels right. This one feels a bit strange. It doesn't mean it's bad, it's not bad, it's just different, and it kind of, even now, it's a bit difficult to really get my hands to properly work with it. But having said that, I'm finding it a bit easier regarding like dodging and stuff like that, etc, etc. So it's not that bad. It is good. It's a good combat system. It's fair, I think, and it's very enjoyable. I think the gameplay is one of the most enjoyable parts of this whole game, and I think it's where they really made it relevant in this day and age. And you have the whole gun element to it as well. You've got several guns, you've got several like melee weapons, so that's really cool. It's like putting classic and modern together, and obviously it's giving it the unique Devil May Cry hack and slash twist. I mean, when you think, like, I think Devil May Cry is a combat system genre all in and of itself. Like, I never played the only games of its genre that I've really played are Devil May Cry and let me say Bayonetta. So if there are any other games out there like this, there probably are a million others. But I've not really played them or heard of them or researched them. Then I really like to play them. But yeah, so there's platforming elements in this game as well, and they're really good. They're really tight. They're really reactive. They're not stupid elements where you're falling off all the time. They're really not. They're really cool. So I love that about this game. Um, and of course, it's a very welcome addition as well. And the game feels like the environments in this game they feel less linear, and they feel less enclosed. You're in limbo about 85% of the time. It does get jarring a little bit, especially when you're looking at the same wacky, crazy crap all the time, which is cool. It looks cool, but when you're in it all the time, it does get a bit like tiring. It does get a bit jarring. Um, but the game feels very wide. It feels very big, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like linear, but it doesn't feel huge. It feels just right. So that's good. And you have like pods situated around the place where you can get like orbs and health orbs and stuff like that. And then of course you have the secret missions and the collectibles. The collectibles are just like a nice little thing to have fun with, an extra little thing to have fun with, which come in the form of these lost souls, which are like these like demon men that are stuck in walls and you have to kill them basically, hack at them. And then you have these keys which you can collect, and these are cool because they're also collectibles. And then also these doors that you have to find, and these doors, if you have the right key that corresponds to the door, then it unlocks a secret mission, and you can play the secret missions from the main menu. And the secret missions can be anything like, stay alive for 3 minutes, or defeat the enemies, but they can only be defeated in the air. They can only be defeated in activated zones. They can only be defeated with a certain weapon. Um, defeat these enemies, but you'll die in one hit, and they'll die in one hit as well. And then you can have things like timed challenges where you have to get from point A to point B. I think I've done 2 of those so far. I did one where you had to like collect, I think it was 20, 20 like gate zones things. You had to like get to like 20 checkpoints basically. It was all over this area. You had to jump and like run around and move really quick. It was really cool. And then there was another one where you have to get like from point A to point B. It's pretty simple over a specific amount of time. So yeah, the easiest ones are these copper doors. The next ones, I think they're silver doors. I'm not really sure. The difficult ones, I've only found one difficult one so far, and it's a gold door, and I couldn't actually do it because it was hard. And then I found this ivory key, and I've not been able to find the door for it yet. So I'll have to go back and replay. And that's a really good thing about this game as well. There's a lot of replayability because during the first levels, you'll need certain weapons that aren't available to get to specific areas to collect things. So it's an incentive to go back and replay once you have all these abilities, etc., etc. And also, there's an incentive to sort of get a triple S on each mission. Triple S being the highest ranking you can get, because the way that each mission is ranked it's ranked in three different parts. The first one is your stylish points, basically how many points you've amounted in combat using your different weapons, combos, how you chain them together by not getting hit. The second part is how long it takes to complete the mission. The third part is how many collectibles you collected. So there might be 5 lost souls, and like two doors or 2 keys. So in order to get 100% completion, you'd have to get all of those things in that mission, and you have to find them through secret areas and exploration of the levels in the mission. So that's a really good incentive to go back and explore as well. And obviously you replay the missions again and again and again to get better at the game, to get more orbs, to get more upgrade points, to basically max out Dante's abilities for his weapons, for his natural abilities, to get orbs to buy health upgrades, devil trigger upgrades as well. And the upgrade system in this game is really cool. Basically, an upgrade can buy you an ability, and you can get abilities for Dante himself, such as jumping or dodging. They can get abilities that are related to each of his weapons, so you can get an ability for the Rebellion Sword, then for his guns, which are ebony and ivory, the Revenant, I think it's called, which is a shotgun, and this sort of like demon taser pistol thing called the Kablooey. Then you have the 2 demon weapons called the Arbiter and Eric's. Eric's being these like gauntlets, Arbiter being this like hammer thing, and them are like blunt weapons. Then you have the sort of light weapons which are used for crowd control, which are the angel weapons called Aquila and the Osiris. The Aquila being these like projectile things, these like I don't want to say nunchucks, but I guess they are like, no, not nunchucks, chakras, I think they're called, like Axel from Kingdom Hearts 2, like those, which are cool. And also the Osiris is like this scythe. So yeah, every time, like when you get upgrades basically from collecting white orbs that you get during combat. So white orbs will gradually increase your upgrade bar. And every time your upgrade bar clocks over, you get 1 more upgrade to use. Then you have the red orb system, which is basically red orbs is like the currency in the game, and you can buy like consumables like health stars to increase your health, devil stars to increase your devil trigger, and these like health cross things, which increase your maximum vitality, and you can also get fragments of these health crosses by completing secret missions. And four health cross fragments create one health cross, so that's really cool as well. And it same goes. Actually, I think you can only increase the devil trigger by buying the upgrades with the red orbs. So yeah, that's cool. Additionally, the devil trigger in this game is really cool. I actually think they made a good design choice in not having Dante turn into this random, like, friggin' beast thing like he does in the other games, because it would look a little bit out of place. And I think the idea of this game is that everything looks human but isn't. It's sort of like, what's beneath the surface sort of thing, that sort of message going on, instead of actually being literally monsters and whatever, and that's really cool. Speaking of design choices, the environments in this game are really cool. Like I said, you're in limbo for 90% of the time, and I've already talked about environments, but one thing I wanted to say was there's this level in Lilith's club, Lilith being like the mistress, whatever, of Mundus, the evil guy. And I don't know what Capcom Ninja Theory were thinking when they designed this level, because if you have epilepsy or you're susceptible to getting, your eyes hurting, this mission will kill you. It's really dark and it's got really bright colours. It's proper club music, flashing lights. It's ridiculous. It's really, like, they don't even give you a health warning or a seizure warning or a flashing lights warning before it. Like, it's like that episode of Porygon Pokemon all over again in Japan. It's really like that. It's really bad. So, yeah, they should have put a health warning with it, and it was really stupid of them not to do so. So yeah, okay, then, music is another thing I wanted to talk about. Music in this game is wonderful. Music is probably one of the best things in this game, and I've always loved Devil May Cry music. It's kind of like that sort of gothy, it's not gothy, but it's more like, techie, like, it's like tech, like rock. It's weird, but it's really catchy. It's really good, and they kind of made the game, obviously, like dubstep and rock are really relevant nowadays, and also in popular culture as well. And they really took it and they really applied it to this game, which I loved. I mean, you'd have like, really, I think they used Combi Christ and Noisia in this in this game, and I didn't really know who these were until I listened to more of their music, and I really like their music. So, thank you, Devil May Cry, for introducing me to new music, which I really love. So yeah, it's like a mix of like rock, like really like, tech rock. It's got club music as well. It's really catchy, and then you have dubstep, random bits of dubstep, and it really fits. It really brings the game on all the package together, sort of like glue. It's just one of those things. It really just fits. A good game should have a good soundtrack, and this game does have a very, very, very good soundtrack, in my opinion. If you're not into rock, if you're not into that whole sort of like, it's not like literally rock music, but it's more like, I don't know, techno rock. I don't know what you call it. But listen to Combi Christ, and you'll know what I mean. If you're not into that, if you're not into dubstep, then I don't think you really enjoy the music. Obviously, it's subjective, but it's good music. It is good music in my opinion. And oh my god, the Mundus boss battle at the end. Okay, so there's this one song from the Devil May Cry soundtrack by Noisia, which has been out in the public for about a year now. And it was like a sort of sample at first. And I had a feeling it was going to be in the game, but I didn't really know where or how or when. And I think subconsciously I was listening out for it, and then I heard like the first, like, cadences of the song during the Mundus boss battle, when you're like, you have to go walking with Virgil to find him, sort of thing. And I was like, oh yeah, this song. I was so happy when this song came on. I was like, it was this dubstep song. It's really powerful, really, like hard hitting. It's really epic. So yeah, it's called if you type in YouTube, Noisia, Noisia, like dubstep or Devil May Cry dubstep or something. It'll be that. It's the Mundus boss battle theme. It's really cool. I loved it. So yeah, I absolutely loved the music in this game. It was so cool. It was so catchy. There are very subtle elements in it as well. And I think sound in this game was really well done. The voice acting was really well done. Um, the the motion capture was really well done as well, and I loved it. Graphically, this game is pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. I think people say Xbox and PS3 graphics are really good. They're really amazing. Whatever, whatever. Personally, I don't think they're all that. I think they're just because we've seen so much of it that they just become stock, and I'm just used to them now. But yeah, it looked pretty good. Like the graphics were pretty good. They had this whole crystal motif going on in Limbo. That was really good. That was really nice to look at. So yeah, I mean the game looks very good. Graphically, it's cool, but personally, I would like to see it on next gen consoles. I think it'd be amazing to look at. So yeah. So after having said all that, how does DmC compare to Devil May Cry? So obviously, Devil May Cry is like the template and inspiration for this um for this installment, this reboot. But Capcom, Ninja Theory, whoever said, you know what, if you want us to, we can go back to the original Dante and Virgil. So that pretty much confirms that DmC and Devil May Cry are two separate stories, realities. So that's cool. But it's, even though Dante is called Dante and Virgil's called Virgil and Mundus is called Mundus and you have demons and angels, whatever, whatever. For me, comparing DmC to Devil May Cry is like comparing Devil May Cry to Bayonetta, in the sense that they have very similar, maybe nearly identical combat systems, ranking systems, leveling up systems. The stories are they have the same, similar elements, but they're not the same. So it's kind of like that. So it's difficult because it's like comparing an apple and an orange. No, it's like comparing a lemon and a lime. They've got similar features, but they're not the same. I mean, it would be far easier for me to compare Devil May Cry 3 with Devil May Cry 4 than it would to compare DmC to any of the other games. And I'm kind of wondering whether I should just leave it at that. Because, okay, so if you're a fan of the original series, and you have this haterade for DmC, I would say at least borrow it off someone if you're really not that sure. Try and set your prejudices aside, because no matter what you call it, no matter how much hatred you have or dislike or whatever, whatever, DmC is a reimagining of the original content. It is not the original content. It is not a replacement of the original content. It is a reimagination of the original content. They both exist just as validly as one another. They're both just as valid as one another, but they are not to be, and I think this is what Ninja Theory were trying to get at, they are not to be compared to each other constantly all the time. It's kind of like remaking a movie and putting a couple things different in it. Well, okay, a lot of things are different in this, but you know what I mean. It's kind of like that. So I think you should try and put your uneasiness, whatever you want to call it, to the side and really just try the game out. because you know what, it is enjoyable to play. I very much think it's an enjoyable game to play. Um, the gameplay is amazing. The weapons are cool. The enemies are cool. It looks very good. It sounds very good. Like the music's very good. It's funny. It's refreshing. It's relevant. It's very all about themes and problems and issues that we have. That we've had in the past decade in pop culture. It's all about that kind of thing. So, but if you're like a new player to Devil May to this whole series, I'd say definitely check it out. Like if I'm gonna talk about it. If I were to talk about this game as an IP, a new IP, which I don't think it's a new IP, but it could be. It very much could be. What okay, maybe I should give it two review scores. Okay, as a game, a standalone game by itself, no connection with any other games whatsoever. How do I think of this game? What would I give this game? I'd give this game a 7.75. And I say that because I think the story really did let it down. I think it was generic. I think it wasn't badly written, but it was done 1,000 times before. You could see it coming from a mile off. If you've, not been living under a rock for the past 10 years or ever. And sometimes it felt a bit weak. It felt a bit empty in the middle. If they'd have packed it with subplots and more characters and perhaps different character design choices in terms of personality and motivation, then it could have been a much more. It could have been a game that you are much more invested in, and it would have been 1,000 times better to play. Well, not okay, not okay. It's not that bad. It would have been a more wholesome experience. It would have been like a really good book where things were new and you'd have this whole universe and reality to think about, and it would have been really cool. However, because this game is supposed to be an origin story, I don't really see it as an origin story. I see it as an underdog fighting an evil guy and winning. That is literally what it is. It isn't an origin story at all. So I give it a 7.75. Now, in comparison to the other games, how would I rank these games in order? Well, the original games, I'd put it like this. In the original series, I'd say my favourite is DmC 3, followed by DmC 4, which is, I know a lot of people are going to be like, what? But then followed by DmC 1, followed by DmC 2. And we all know why 2's at the bottom. But I think, this is roundabout the general consensus for people's favourite games concerning Devil May Cry. Maybe for most people it would be like DmC 3, DmC 1, DmC 4, DmC 2. Personally, I really liked DmC 4. I thought it was cool. Now, where would I put DmC 5, aka this well, okay, it's not DmC 5. Where would I put the 2013 game in amongst these lot? It's difficult. Did I enjoy it more than DmC 4? Yeah, I did. Did I like its environments, gameplay, music, blah blah blah, characters more than DmC 4? Yeah, I did. I think pretty much in every aspect I enjoyed DmC 2013 more than DmC 4. So, this game either goes in second place or first place. And this is where it gets difficult, because I can't really say if I like it more than DmC 3 or the same as DmC 3. Or maybe a bit less than DmC 3, I'm not really sure. So, I think it's more enjoyable to play than DmC 3. It's more interactive than DmC 3, definitely. and you get, I think, more bang for your buck than DmC3. DmC3 it's a very good game. DmC3, I love DmC3, but sometimes it can be a little bit lackluster. I think one of the reasons why I love DmC3 so much is because I love Dante and Virgil, and I just love that whole dynamic between them, and I'm just a fangirl. So yeah, but considering what little story DmC3 has, and that's also generic, it's kind of difficult. I'm gonna say that I think I'd really have to replay DmC3 and this one again next, like side by side. But on gut instinct, I'd have to say that I do like DmC3 more than this. But if it had DmC3's story and DmC3 characterization with like another character interaction between Dante and Virgil and Cat, whatever, if it had that, but it had the new game's soundtrack, environments, weapons, but DmC3's controller layout, I think I'd like DMC 2013 more. So I'm going to have to say that my order for my favourite DMC games goes as such: Devil May Cry 3, DMC Devil May Cry, Devil May Cry 4, Devil May Cry 1, Devil May Cry 2. And a lot of people are going to be like, oh my god, why do you like the new reboot more than you like the other games? You're such a traitor. You're not really a Devil May Cry fan. What the fuck? Blah, blah, blah. In my personal opinion, like, yeah, I like this game more than Devil May Cry 1, more than Devil May Cry 4. And down the side, more than Devil May Cry 2. Some parts I liked it more than Devil May Cry 3. So what? It happens. I'm not one of these people that goes into something wanting it to fail. When I invest my money and my time and my effort into something, I'm expecting it, and I'm looking for elements that I'm gonna enjoy. Like, I'm sorry if this is sort of such a strange concept to some people, but I'm not gonna sit here and bitch off this like reboot of a game yet, and then go and spend money on it just because I hate it so much. I don't hate the game. Why would I hate the game when I hadn't even played it? That's silly. That's like saying, oh well, I really hate that book. Well, have you read it? Well, no, but I really hate it. And it's like, well, you need to experience something for yourself before you determine whether you like it or not. So yeah, after having played this game all the way through, after having invested myself into it with an open mind, with good expectations, because I was really pumped up, I really enjoyed some things that I'd seen from the trailer, I have to say that, yeah, I am a hardcore DMC fan. I love Devil May Cry. I watched the anime, and I really hate anime, but I watched the anime because it's Devil May Cry. I read the manga. I don't read manga, but I read it because it's Devil May Cry. I've got the original PS2 games. I've got the HD collection. I love Devil May Cry. And just because this is different doesn't mean it's bad. To some people, they just might not like it. That's fine. But you have to play something first and experience it first and first before you can really say how you feel about something. Like, the whole mentality of, oh my god, this game sucks and I want it to fucking fail, blah blah blah, that's childish, that's stupid. You need to understand something, you need to see it with your own eyes and play it with your own hands before you can really just say how something is. And I really hope people stop hating on this game before they've actually played it, because that's really not fair. So, yeah. And I think Capcom did a very good job with this game. And I mean, not Capcom, sorry, Ninja Theory. I think Ninja Theory did a very good job with this game. I think Capcom did a good job with this game. Even though Capcom as a publisher are appalling as of late, Ninja Theory did a good job. Everyone did a good job on this game. So yeah, overall my verdict on this game, when you put in comparison with the other Devil May Cry games, and as a standalone game, I'd give it a 7. I'd say I'd give it a 7.5, which is good. Which is good. It's not perfect. An amazing game would probably be 9. A very, very good game would be an 8. And a good game, a good solid game, a good solid experience would be a 7. So this is just between a very good game and a. It actually, it is a. Okay, my rating system is really weird, but I give it a 7.5 because it just. Or maybe it's. I don't know. No, I give it. No, I'm going to give it a 7.75. It's just short of being really, really good, and I think the story let it down. So yeah. A 7.75, that's my final verdict on this game overall. And I promise you, it's a 7.75. So yeah, play this game. Honestly, personally, I'd recommend buying it. If not, then renting it. Borrowing it even from a friend, because obviously it's good to save money wherever you can. And really enjoy it, and try not to look at it as a game that is, you know, not the original. So yeah. So thanks for listening to this very long review. It's probably been over an hour. It's ridiculous. And I really hope you enjoy it and comment whatever you want. Like if you're gonna say, oh well, I don't agree with you, or fuck you for your opinions, whatever, that's fine. It is my opinion. I accept everyone else's opinion. I'm often quite outspoken when it comes to media. Example, True Blood. But it is my honest feelings, and it is a subjective review, because obviously it is my feelings on it. But yeah, and I hope you can appreciate that, and I definitely appreciate your opinions on whatever you like. So yeah, just have a good day, have a good evening, and hopefully you will also enjoy this game as much as I have, because it's something to be enjoyed.